All right, everyone, welcome to the broadcast. So let's start off by talking about the quote unquote SEC Twitter hack. Let's see the just in SEC says they will work with law enforcement to investigate their specific or supposed Twitter hack. Let me close Discord, it'll go the whole time. What a day. What a day. Let's go look at Twitter and kind of see a timeline of events. So today, first thing that happened was the SEC decided that they were going to announce the release of the Bitcoin spot ETF or the Bitcoin ETF. They said they were all approved and like, let's go. It's ready to do this. Then not long after, we had the man, Gary Gensler, decide to say right afterward that their Twitter account was compromised and an unauthorized tweet was posted. What's interesting was before he was basically drunk posting all day about Twitter. It reminded me of back when Donald Trump had a Twitter and he just would never stop. Seemed like dude had already kicked back like a fifth of Jack and he was just going ham on it because he was mad about this being approved or even being in the position to have to approve it, since we know that he hates anything to do with crypto. So it was like a thread, some things to keep in mind if you're considering investing in crypto, blah, blah, blah. Tomorrow's a lot. And everything lately was just about crypto, it was threads and all this stuff and support, kind of supporting his thesis that Twitter or crypto's not safe. So then it was like, okay, the Twitter account was compromised. Then we go back to the SEC. And now what was interesting to me is magically, like, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds later, they somehow magically had control over their Twitter account again. What's weird to me is they posted that thing and then magically we're able to instantly delete that tweet. And then Gary Gensler posted about it. When hacks typically happen, it takes a little bit of time to get that account back. You got to get it back from the hackers. The hackers are typically posting. Even if you're in the account, the hackers are still in there too. They're changing passwords. It's just a mess. It's really challenging to get an account back. So the fact that they got it back so quick kind of makes me feel like someone accidentally posted what was supposed to come out tomorrow today. They were trying to schedule a tweet and they accidentally clicked post. And so part of me thinks this is damage control by the SEC. They're like, oh, shoot, we weren't supposed to post that today. Delete. And then, we're hacked. So now they're saying they're going to work with law enforcement and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see what happens. But it was really weird to me that they were magically able to get their account back so quick. Anyway, we had a nice Darth Maul candle. I mean, Bitcoin was a complete shit show during the event. It was like, we're approved straight up. And then, haha, just joking, rug pulled you straight down. Then we had a nice little reversal candle. And then all of a sudden, let me turn all this stuff off. Then all of a sudden, after the reversal, it's like, never mind, we're still going to die. So Bitcoin didn't have the best time. But what was even more interesting was ETH finally decided to start pumping. So ETH just went nuts, erased its kind of gains, went right back up, and then finally kind of broke that support level. Now it's just kind of chilling here. But what we're going to have to kind of watch out for here is obviously it's going to be a crazy couple of days. So tomorrow we could get the approval, we could get a delay. We have no idea at this point. It's just an absolute shit show across the board. So we just kind of have to be prepared for that. Big thing for ETH is if Bitcoin decides it's just going to colossally collapse and die, then nothing can happen. There is no ETH run. Everything will just collapse and fall apart. If Bitcoin can kind of just tumble and sit here and just like mosey along sideways, then ETH potentially has the chance to run here. I think it looks like it's in a pretty good position. I mean, on the hourly, it has a nice push. On the 4 hour, we were able to clear that resistance. If this candle holds above, it's a really good spot. Kind of puts us in a nice little position. Like if we even move to a line chart, puts us in a pretty good spot here because we've got a little bit of resistance there. We've already cleared this. We're moving up here. We're kind of getting close to this high territory for ETH. And if it can clear that, it puts ETH in a pretty good position to probably push into the high twos. The interesting thing about when ETH pushes, though, that I kind of pay attention to is it's a pretty good indicator of number one, an alt kind of rally. So ETH and the ETH beta plays will all push typically pretty hard when ETH finally rallies. But when it hits its peak, typically like 2, 3, ish weeks later, maybe a month, the entire market corrects. It's a pretty good top indicator. So if the ETH does go on a rally, means the local top for this area is probably in, and we can probably expect a nice little correction coming up. If we start looking at some of these order blocks, let me find my indicator. For ETH, everything's working really slow right now. So we're kind of like we're in a pretty big order zone. We're in a pretty tough zone, so it's going to be a grind for ETH to get through this. If ETH gets through this, it's moon time. So what we're really looking at, especially on the daily here, you can see like this is a ton of chop. We're above the daily trend finally, but we've basically been sandwiched in ETH from like here to like right up here ish, but that's created a pretty big demand zone. So now we've got to clear this. We've got to enter this order block and we've got to get clear it through up here. So like 2446 puts us in a pretty good zone to start pushing to like 2527. And then that gets us into like 2800s. I would anticipate with ETH, typically if ETH goes on a run, like if it does clear that, ETH just like the way it runs is it just magically teleports. So all of a sudden it'll magically teleport to this kind of breaker zone, like 2025. And then all of a sudden we'll be in like 26s. And then the next big zone would be like 27. Then we're kind of looking at the 28s ish. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised for ETH to just come up and top out somewhere around like 35, like match this. We'd be looking at clearing this zone, like the 25s to 3000s. And then maybe we teleport back right up to like 35s, maybe 32s ish. And then we see a market wide correction. That's if ETH is ready to do it. It's a big if. Right now, we just have to make sure that Bitcoin isn't going to collapse and die at the same time. But if ETH shows continued strength like this, then I wouldn't be surprised to see this happen. And then we're going to see the ETH betas start pushing with this as well. So what we're probably going to see with this will be we'd likely see ETH push into this demand zone and then start grinding through it. Probably be a bit of a grind. So we'll just see it kind of grind through here, then grind through this demand zone. And then we'll see, like on my watch list, the big things I look out for are like ARB. A lot of the ETH betas will run, like the ETH plays, the L2s and stuff like that will run with it pretty hard. And then most alts as a whole will probably take off as well. But like we can see ARB already had a nice God candle printed. Now it's pushing into its next one. Looks good. 2 4 hours. It's above its daily, pushed all the way through. It's kind of getting past a lot of the chop zone that ARB has. If we go to the daily on ARB, it's just blue skies once we get up this like past this 211 zone, which is going to be sort of a grind zone for it. But if we can get past that, then I think ARB's there is no top for ARB. We don't know. It's price discovery at that point. So it's just going up to the 194 to like $2 range and then clearing that 211. Then it's blue skies. Like we don't really know. These coins haven't necessarily had a bull market. It's got this 219 here. That's like scam wick when it opened, but doesn't really have anything. So then it's just blue skies to figure out what's going on. LDOs had a little more price action. So this one would be on my list as well. But we'd essentially be looking at, I mean, LDO's already kind of cleared most of its range. So it's like 355 to 360. So LDO is in a pretty good zone to start really driving and pushing itself up. The other one I'd probably look out for, ENS has been doing great. It's another ETH beta that I think would perform well. It's already starting to print its nice candle. Some of these are a little bit delayed in response. OP was quick. OP and LDO were probably the quickest in terms of how quickly they moved. So like we're sitting right here at this zone 14. We start moving past that, then all this one has to get through is 15, and then it's in a pretty good zone to drive as well. I would imagine Sol would do well with this, but it's still pretty responsive to how Bitcoin moves. I mean, like Bitcoin came down a little bit and Sol completely erased all of the gains it had and just died. and it's in this huge demand zone. So this is grind zone for Sol. It needs a lot of strength to get past this. So up to that 109 level and that 116, it's a pretty tough zone for Sol to get through. So for me, if ETH does go on a pretty good run, if it doesn't collapse and die, if Bitcoin doesn't collapse and die, and then everything dies with it, then my goal would be to start watching ARB. And if there's any questions, drop those in the chat while I'm going. But my goal would be to look at ARB. And I'd kind of just look for a continuation pattern on the 4 hour. So we're going to be looking at ETH, LDO, ARB, Optimism, stuff like that, Render, Matic, and kind of catch continuation plays. So if I wasn't in a position, I'd be looking for a 4 hour continuation. So we'd see we'd see a drive, and then we'd look for continuation off these EMA bands. So on this 4 hour, I would expect us to kind of like keep grinding, then probably get sideways, and then come back and test. And I would imagine these bands come up somewhere around, if we keep pushing, somewhere around like, it's not there yet, but I would imagine somewhere around here. So we grind through, start going sideways, test those bands, and then push. So this would kind of be the demand zone for ARB, is in terms of what I would be looking for. LDO, similar story. It's all moved a lot quicker. Like I said, LDO and Optimism moved much quicker than ARB has. So I would be looking for this to come here and then us to start peeling over, going sideways, test, and then push. So probably looking at like here, maybe here. I gotta kind of eyeball these. So it's just like boom and then boom for both these bands to catch that trend, which puts that in a spot. It bounces and then that's continuation. So then we're in a pretty good spot there. Then the last thing I would look at, our next thing would be Optimism. So Optimism would be in a similar situation. Got kind of a little more junk to get through. We can see it peaked. It was stronger than anything else. Hit that 418 zone. So Optimism's coming up on this like demand zone. That'll probably be a grind. So we're probably going to hit this, and then we might grind through or just like move sideways and then come down on the 4 hour. So I would imagine 4 hour comes around like honestly 358. This spot right here could be one of the zones, and then maybe like right here, something like that. I think is what we might end up seeing. So then Matic hasn't really taken off yet, but I think if ETH continues to drive, Matic will too. It always follows ETH. It's an ETH, supposedly an ETH L2, even though it kind of acts on its, like if you use Matic for gas, and it can almost seem like it's a standalone, but it's got this huge demand zone to get through. So it's got like 83 to 93, really thick right here, 86 to 89. So it's starting to clear that 4 hour trend. So we'd probably see Matic push to 85, push back down to 83, push back up, bounce, drive, bounce off the top here, drive, bounce, drive. So it's going to be, this will be a little more choppy. If ETH is taking off, then obviously Matic will follow. Right now, there's no real trend to follow because we're just starting to actually clear it. Technically, like if it holds above this or it comes back up and tests and can stay above it, then along from right here with a stop, like right here, would be a pretty good spot for it. Would imagine SNX start picking up too. No questions, just following. Want to look at Matic too. It looks like 81.9. Yeah, good call. Yeah, so Matic, like I was just showing, let's go back to it. What I would kind of be looking at for, like I said, Matic right now, if it ever loads, there, if it loads, is sitting in that like 4 hour trend spot. It's got a lot of junk to clear. When we move to the daily for Matic, I think it's just above it. Let's see if it ever loads. Gosh, everything's slow today. Like this these two bands could be pretty good support zones. So we've wicked off of this every single time. So if I was going to look at Matic, it would be even something like right here would be fine with a stop like down here, just a protective stop. Should keep it safe. A conservative stop would be here. But like I said, if Matic can hold above that 4 hour trend, that gives me confidence that at least it can hold that and it gives it some strength to push. So like for me, then it'd be we hold above this yellow band here, like 0.8180. And then on the next candle, it's able to push and hold, or it bounces off the blue, puts it in a good zone. So then a stop loss could be like right here and probably be in a pretty good zone, or even less conservatively down here. It's just a pretty big gap down there. So it's sometimes maybe like this, puts us in a good zone there. Like I said, I would anticipate SNX doing well too. SNX usually follows ETH when it moves. Can kind of see it starting to move now. It's creeping along. It was on a pretty good tear up here. Just never had enough. I think we hit almost five. It did hit $5. Yeah, so it's got a lot of junk to clear too, but it's in a similar spot like Matic. It's just getting over that 4 hour zone. It's got a lot of junk here to clear through. So like an SNX long would be it holding above this trend and then a stop even below this demand zone. That's a huge gap if it's on leverage. So for me, it would be like right here or even right here. That's a little sketchy though, because if it comes through and wicks, that's a stop out. And SNX moves wildly. It's actually a hard coin to trade because it'll be like here all the way down, all the way back up, and then keep going. It's hard to set a stop loss on that coin. The other things I think about too, if ETH starts going, are NFTs would probably see a pretty big move. So then I would start looking at like Immutable X. Let's go to the regular list. So I would look at those main coin. It would be ETH, LDO, Optimism, Matic, but I wouldn't fade something like this or even Blur, just because if ETH starts really going, then the ETH network as a whole is going to start going. So then NFTs probably see a little rally too. And that would make sense because then ETH peaks, NFTs peak, and then the whole market kind of collapses and has a downside. I would say comp, another ETH beta to look at. ETH DeFi, similar situation. They're all in the same situation. It's just a 4 hour chart with I put multi EMA 13, 21, 55, 100, 200. It's sitting under this like massive demand zone. So same thing here with comp. It's like it's above this 4 hour trend. So as long as it stays above this, it should have some strength to drive. And if ETH keeps pushing, then it should give it the strength. Ethereum Classic, another good one. This one's already kind of moving. This one would work well with ETH. It's kind of like longing ETH, except it has a lot more upside because it's obviously a smaller coin. So it's a similar one. We've got the 4 hour. Would anticipate the 4 hour coming to like right here on that top line. And then this one coming to like right here. It ended up being right there because I would imagine we go like this and then boop and then push, something like that. You kind of got to imaginarily draw these lines to figure out where they're going to end up to set orders and stuff like that. Because typically in a strong market, it'll come down and it'll have a quick wick and then drive straight through. ENS, I would anticipate would do pretty well with it too. And FXS. Let's see. Any other questions in the comments? Got it. Yeah. Took it on. Perfect. Nice. Should be good. Yeah, so ENS similar situation. I think this will do well too. These EMA bands are really compressed, so I would imagine this will be nice if it holds. It'll give it a nice spring, and then stop loss for me is like that's the 55, maybe there, less conservatively there. That's a pretty big gap though. So like here, FXS, same thing. Looks like it's already starting to move. So similar situation we're looking at. It's kind of already cleared that 4 hour. I can tell before the EMA things even load. But yeah, we've cleared that, kind of starting to push through this stuff. For this one now, it's kind of in no man's land. It needs to close above this. And then if it closes above here, that'd be a good zone. So it's like a close above here, wicks bounce or closes above, tests, bounces, drives. Stop loss is like right here. Puts it in a pretty good zone. So that way, if it comes through, it doesn't completely wick you out. I think that's the hard part is setting these. You set it here, and if it retests, it'll just wick straight through, and then you have to sit out. Kind of sucks. Other than that, I would maybe uni render probably will pick up some steam. I think the thing right now is just the waiting game. Wait for it to retest that 4 hour trend on all of these. And then if it retests and it's able to drive through, or if it's just now starting to break that 4 hour trend, if it's retesting, or if we wait for the retest, we want to set the orders in where we think those EMA bands are going to be and then kind of pay attention to it. One hack that I'll do that kind of keeps me alert to it is I'll put this multi EMA 13, 21, 55, 100, 200. And then what I'll do here is I'll just set an alert for render crossing, and then I'll click the multi EMA. And super short is the blue one. So then what I'll typically do is I'll set I'll set price. I'll set this. Super short is a 13. So then I'll say render crossing EMA 13, and then I'll click create. So then what happens is if this was coming down to retest, it would tell me, it would ping me and say crossing this, and then I would know to go and check and look. So if I had an order in, I could go and check and make sure it doesn't fall through and die. So that might way my order sticks, but at least it alerts me so I don't have to sit here and watch the chart, which I think is huge. So if you have something that's already kind of pushed up pretty hard, like LDO, for example, I would set that alert on this. So then say for LDO, just looks like absolute money right now. Glad I have that. Like that's a spot bag. OP's a spot bag. ARB's a spot bag. I have a ton of ETH. So here for this, for example, like I want to hit it, pay attention to it when this gets like when it starts crossing this, so I can catch that rebound off that trend. So then I would come over here, I would click alert. I would go LDO crossing, EMA, multi EMA, super short is the blue line, short is the yellow line underneath it. So set this, and then I would say, okay, crossing, crossing EMA 13, create. And then when it crosses that, it'll ping me. So then I can go to my alerts, it'll ping me, and I can see where these triggered. So as you can see, active alerts. I have ETH a couple of times. I have OP crossing 13 EMA. I have, that's the main one right now, OP. I'll probably, actually, let's just set LDO right now. So we set it like LDO crossing EMA 13. We'll change this, LDO crossing EMA 13, create. Now, as soon as it crosses that, it's going to ping me so that way I know. Unfortunately for me, this happens in the middle of the night a lot of the time. So I kind of have to either miss it or have an order like here, and then in the middle of the night, a stop like down here. Because what'll happen sometimes, it makes this really challenging. It'll come straight through and then wick all the way back up, especially LDO. It moves wildly like this. Straight through wick. Actually, that's not a good example. When it's on an uptrend like this, like here, it pushes, comes straight through it, and then pushes back up. Straight through it, pushes back up, straight through it. So it'll hold, but the coin moves so wildly, it'll push straight through. So that wick can sometimes get us in trouble. So for me, when I'm getting that like hit, but I need that stop loss to be like below the next band. That's wider than I'd probably want it to be, but also if I'm sleeping, I want to catch that and I don't want to get immediately wicked out. It's like catch the thing and then get wicked out. Like, God damn it. That's kind of what I pay attention to. Like, I don't want it to hit right off the bat. So something to pay attention to. That's kind of what I'd be paying attention to. Like if ETH does take it, we're going to see an ETH-led rally, which I think puts us into an NFT rally. I'm saying if, because obviously if the orange coin isn't going to cooperate, then it's just like the music stops and it's over anyway. So there's nothing to celebrate. But if it can at least go sideways, then we could see this ETH rally. But as we're seeing right now, if it doesn't hold this, it's just going to go straight down, and it'll come down to retest this green line again, likely. So that's what we could expect, which will wick everybody out of every position, which is what this happens in this with the orange coin all the time. So I have to pay attention to that. Hopefully we can get some sideways action on it, because then it would get some action. The other thing to pay attention to is if the announcement comes tomorrow, if there's a delay, it's going to be an absolute shit show the next couple of days. So there's nothing wrong with just completely sitting this out. and letting the next couple days pass and then getting started once like an announcement comes or once it comes back or the SEC figures out who hacked their Twitter or what intern pressed the wrong button or figures out how to have a better excuse for how their Twitter got magically hacked and they got magically back into it 25 seconds later. But really what we need, like right now, it's not bad. I mean, it's just chilling. If it loses this, it comes down straight there and it's going to push everything else down. We just need to see ETH able to sustainably support itself with the orange coin, not necessarily in the best position, which gives us that, I guess, more oomph for a rally. Like right now, this sucks. Like we're about to clear the 1 hour, but we're going from now we're in this demand zone. So now, like, look at the 1 hour. We've got a ton of just junk from 23.83 to like 24.34. So it's going to be a bit of a grind. And we need the support of Bitcoin not collapsing in order to make that work. So we'll see this across like almost everything when we look at this. So if we go to the watch list, coming back in, like we'll see Matic, everything will take a hit. And if you have questions, drop those below. But we'll see everything kind of take that big hit because now they're following ETH as well. So if Bitcoin's sideways, but ETH is dumping, then everything is going to dump. Matic's not too bad. But when we start looking at like Optimism had the same structure, the same little dump that ETH just had. Wow, we got some serious lag today. So Optimism, same thing. Look at ARB, it's going to be the same thing. Look at LDO, it's going to be the same thing. So we need this to cooperate by just not dying, and we need this to cooperate by just actually having a sustained pump. And then we also need the SEC to cooperate. Well, actually, ARB didn't react at all to the downside. Then when we need the SEC to cooperate and then just the market to cooperate to stop dropping fake news, to stop hacking random Twitter accounts, it's just there's nothing wrong with sitting out. And this is one of the reasons like why I have spot bags. I buy spot bags so I can sit in them and not have to trade 24/7, 365 and consistently and constantly pay attention to this stuff. Like the spot bags, wow, LDO looks good too. The spot bags allow me to just be comfortable. I don't have to sit here and trade. I bought LDO when it was I bought LDO when it was like $1, maybe like less than $1.60. I bought ARB when it was $1. I bought Optimism when it was $1.50. I mean, that's why I buy the spot bags early because I can just sit in it comfortably. The market can correct and it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect me. It's not going to impact me. It's not going to hurt me. But if I'm trying to trade, it kind of makes you a little bit crazy. And my philosophy on trading is I trade to make profits in order to take those profits and use them in real life, and then also take those profits and move those profits into my spot bag. So I have more for my long-term hold, which allows me to consistently scale over the course of like a bull run. So that way I'm actually consistently putting in profits from trading, not just profits from everything else. I mean, look at this is an interesting, it's already kind of starting to push on ENS, which is great. So look, there's the God candle. We literally watched this happen on screen. So now ENS has the God candle. I was just saying, like, if it holds here, it bounces and it just annihilated it. There was no retest. There was nothing. So like I said, it would have been an entry and it would have been a stop loss somewhere around here and it would have just straight up mooned through. You can see these starting to move. Like ETH is okay, but then we've got ARB up 2%. We've got LDO up 4%. We've got ENS up 12%. Render starting to push. Matic isn't doing much yet, but I assume it will. SNX is moving. Like a lot of these ETH related bonk for whatever reason, bonk's decided it's an ETH beta, but all of these are doing well because we've got Bitcoin pushing now. So now if we have Bitcoin at least pushing or moving sideways or doing something that's not dying, then that'll allow this to push and allow all of these betas to push. So that's pretty much all I have to say for today. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if y'all have any questions or if you want me to look at anything else. There's a few of you watching. If you are watching, you want me to check something out, just let me know down in the comments. Something else before we come off, the DEA, the US DEA is actually starting to talk about moving the classification of like weed, marijuana from like a category 1 or whatever it was, which is in the same category as like cocaine and other hard drugs, I think, and move it up. So I think weed stocks actually have the potential to move when that news comes out. So it's something to watch and pay attention to. Stocks as a whole, kind of just trying to get back to where they were. Correction the first couple weeks of January, which is kind of indicative of the first few weeks. Seems like the algo's flipped and they're trying to push back up. So starting to see some strength on that side of things. But I think most of oh yeah, down here, U.S. cannabis stocks higher after DEA confirms marijuana status review. So if they move that, weed stocks push. But that's pretty much it. Let me know if there's any coins you want me to look at. If you're watching, if you enjoyed this. Yeah, weed in category one is idiotic. Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's in the same category as like heroin and cocaine and like the hardest drugs imaginable. So if they adjust that, then obviously that it'll have a massive, like it'll go absolutely insane. So when we look at stocks as a whole, I mean, we found a bounce. God, I wish this wasn't so slow right now. But we found a bounce. We pushed. Probably we're kind of getting stuck here. So that tells me we might push back here and try to push through, which would put SPY on the move. So we bounced off that 4-hour EMA 200 down here, kind of drove back up. We're starting to clear the daily trend. I think QQQ, NASDAQ is already in a pretty good position. It's kind of right here, stuck as well. Both of them are back above their daily trend, which is kind of what we wanted to see. So we fell through. We're able to wick off that EMA 4-hour at 200, and then we pushed back above the daily. We've retested it. Now we're here. Could potentially retest it again. Same thing with SPY, similar position. So this one actually was stronger. Fell through, wicked off the daily trend, actually. Pushed back up. Now it's getting stuck on this resistance, so it could put us in a place to retest this top and then come back for a test. As long as it can clear this and then get past this all-time high zone, I think it puts us in a pretty good zone to consistently and continuously drive up. It's kind of where stocks are. For me right now, I think we look at things like Apple, similar story, pushed all the way almost down to the daily EMA 200, which is crazy. Pretty good support though, typically on Apple historically. And it's right here at the EMA 100 on the daily. So if Apple's able to hold above this, then it pushes up and it tests this 187 area, and it pushes back into that daily trend, which puts Apple on trajectory to run again. I think right now there's a lot of value in stuff like PayPal. When you look at PayPal, it's just been battered for so long. It'll even have good earnings and still get annihilated. But it seems like there could potentially have finally been a bottom hit down here in the 50s. And now it's coming up and trying to reclaim this daily trend. This area has just been a really problematic area. So I think PayPal, once it's able to push and push through that, it's got 65 in the tank, and then it can start retesting somewhere 65, like 68, and a lot of these chop zone here, 71, 75. So I think there's a lot of value behind that one. NVIDIA obviously just decided to clear all-time highs, but it's because NVIDIA is coming up on earnings. Every time it comes near earnings, it'll just catastrophically just go nuts, absolutely insane. Something that I jumped in a while back, maybe back in like the hundreds, was AMD. I kind of saw this happening. And then once it broke out of that, AMD kind of follows NVIDIA. So it's in a similar situation. It's going to push. Its earnings aren't until January 30th. So it's going to push hard too, kind of bring the market up. Things you want to watch out for in the crypto sphere, like Coin, with Bitcoin's news today. Coin had actually a decent day yesterday, and then it absolutely died today. So now it's below its daily trend. So something to pay attention to here. It's Coin's weak because of Bitcoin. So a lot of these crypto related stocks will be weak once Bitcoin becomes weak. MicroStrategy, same thing, getting crushed. Marathon, actually relatively decent comparatively. Riot, okay. So it's just stuff to pay attention to in terms of what crypto is going to do. Hood's in a similar situation. So Hood hit that peak somewhere in the 13s, came back, bounced off here. Now we're sitting here in the 12s. So tends to be correlated with like the Bitcoin crowd, stuff like that as well. But that's kind of where I think we're at with that. I think uranium's coming back on a run. Like we got stuck here for a while, came all the way down, and then now we've seen a nice rebound. We've cleared the daily trend, coming back up to test this zone. Same thing with uranium, which is it's coming back up. It had a great day, came back up, tested this, wasn't able to break. So tomorrow probably comes down, touched here, and then tests and drives again. So it looks like uranium wants to push again. Uranium's had just a magical year. It's been insane. So if it can clear that, then it's got another run in it. When you look at the daily trend, notice how it peaked back here in September and then just ran sideways forever. didn't really do anything special. And then now we've got another reset here. So I think it gives it an opportunity to run. Same thing here, reset gives it an opportunity to run. So it's something to pay attention to. Outside of that, I think that's all I've got for today. Let me know if there's any questions in the chat. If you have any coins, highest conviction spot position for me in terms of things that I think will be, I mean, my highest conviction play that spot that I've always had is ETH. I think ETH is the biggest bag that I have by far. I mean, I have Bitcoin as well, but for me, when I look at my spot positions, it's probably going to be ETH. Sol would probably be pretty up there. I have quite a bit. Sol's probably my third highest. I can't remember if Sol or Link are higher, but Sol and Link I have fairly high up there in my spot positions. Let's see what else I've got. Let me just pull up my portfolio on coin market cap and we can check it out. Okay, so let me share my screen again. I got it pulled up now. Okay, so this is pretty much my portfolio. Highest position, like I said, is ETH, then Bitcoin, then Solana, Chainlink, and these are probably in order. Maybe not anymore, but ETH is probably my highest conviction. Then I have Bitcoin, obviously, just to have it. Solana is huge up there for me. I think Solana is going to do what ETH did last bull run, this bull run. It's going to defy expectations. I don't think people are even prepared or expect or even know how to expect the run that Solana is going to have. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting and pretty neat to watch. So over the bear market, I accumulated quite a bit. I think my average price on Sol was like $25 or something like that. Chainlink, because it connects the entire like blockchain ecosystem. And I think on Solana side, Pyth will be an interesting one. It's been not a very good performer, but I think it'll have quite a bit as Solana and the ecosystem over there goes. The other one I think that's going to do well in the Solana ecosystem is Shadow. But then when we look Polygon, another huge conviction play for me. I like Polygon because it's real world assets. Like when people talk about people adopting things in the blockchain, like this is the platform that's doing it. Everyone else is just a degen based on greed. These guys are actually making things happen in the real world. Polkadot, I wouldn't say it's so much. I accumulated quite a bit of this in the bear market. I'm not sure if I'm that convicted with it, convinced. I think it's a great idea, but I think Cosmos is taking over in terms of what Polkadot could do. Lido, another big one. I pretty much, if you have ETH and you have Lido runs like ETH, it just runs harder. Optimism, another big one for me. AVAX is okay. Atom's becoming bigger and bigger for me as it builds upon things like Injective, TIA, stuff like that. I think Atom is actually taking over what Polkadot was trying to do. Polkadot just took forever, and Atom somehow captured more of the market share. Litecoin, not so much. ARB's another big one. These are in order of kind of how much they're worth. So ARB's another big one for me. OXBT, Ordinals, I think will do pretty well. Dogecoin, who cares? BNB, who cares? And synthetics, I like quite a bit. Synthetic assets across the blockchain. I like Illuvium a lot. I think they'll do well just because it's one of the top gaming coins. Shadow, big one. I like Shadow a lot. It's performed incredibly well for me during this run. I can't remember what we bought it at, but we're up like 110% or something. Say, this is another good one for me. I think Say is going to have quite a good run. I think Say is going to be another big one. Let's see, Celestia, I like a lot. If we dump, I would like to accumulate more. My average buy on it right now is like $5. So it's on my list. Celestia, Say, however you say it. Those are two big ones for me. I like Magic. It's kind of like a gaming beta on Avalanche. So coming down, nothing else really. Most of this other stuff is just kind of like trash that I still have in my wallet. But those are kind of my biggest conviction plays. So hopefully that's helpful and kind of gives you an idea of where I'm at. I really like, if you can tell, it's for me, it's ETH betas, and then it's Solana, starting to build a little bit of Solana betas, and then it's Cosmos and kind of the strong projects behind Cosmos. I think as stuff comes out like Manta and stuff like that, I'll probably start accumulating quite a bit of that and start paying attention to the new narratives because things are going to launch during the bull market that will outperform everything. So we're going to want to pay attention to that as well. Yeah, you're welcome. In my the way I accumulate for my portfolio, I try not to accumulate a lot of like tiny little trash coins. If I get those, once I hit like a 10x, I just start laddering out. I don't try to ride those to 100x's or try to get crazy. I just ladder it out at 10x, ladder out at 20, ladder it out when it hits 30, and just ladder it out piece by piece by piece as it goes up. My conviction plays are plays that I know I can sit in. Like I know I can sit in and hold ETH during the bull run. I know I can sit in and hold Solana. I know I can sit every one of these. I can probably sit in and be just fine and not get completely wrecked. And it can give me somewhere around like a 10 to 20x across my portfolio across the entire bull run. So hopefully that's helpful. That's pretty much it. Let me know if there's any other questions. Do I buy on red day? Red days typically. In the bull market, I'll buy on pullbacks. So typically in the bull market, when we have pullbacks that are in like the 20-30% zone, that's typically where I'll buy. I typically don't DCA. I DCA when we start getting into like the depths of the bear market. But I don't DCA as much when we get into the bull market. Like right now, I'm not going to DCA. I'm going to wait until we have a big red day, and then I'll just start buying stuff at that point. It works a lot better for me, so that way I don't end up with, for example, like if I'm DCAing into Sol at $100, but my average price across the bear market was like $25, I'm going to start wrecking my average price, and then I have to pay attention to it across where it's at, so I don't end up in the red. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's it. I will talk to you all later. Hopefully you have a good day. If you like this broadcast and you got some value out of it, just let me know in the dudes chat.